Thank you, Chairwoman Waters and the ranking member for holding this important hearing. I just would like to say that I understand what you are both saying, Mr. McHenry and Mr. Duffy, that we need to help create more affordable housing. We need to work with our partners at the local level. But the fact of the matter is that in my city, Mayor de Blasio and the city council have made numerous concessions and renegotiated labor contracts and zoning requirements, but that doesn't take away the reality that Nydia still faces the largest backlog in the country, more than $36 billion, almost 3/4 of the entire nation's needs. So while you're right, we need to work with our state and local partners, that does not mean that we do not have a responsibility here. In fact, the state of public housing in our nation is a direct result of the federal disinvestment that have taken place in our nation for years. We need to put more money into Public Housing Capital Fund, the Section 8 program, and other affordable housing programs. So I look to work with both of them to make sure that we invest wisely. Ms. Yentel, when we discuss providing more federal funding for public housing, one of the main arguments we consistently hear from the other side of the aisle is that bureaucratic delays and mismanagement by public housing authorities makes investment in public housing an unwise use of taxpayers' money. However, the last time Congress included an infusion of funding for the Public Housing Capital Fund in 2009 as part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, a GAO analysis later confirmed that housing authorities use the funding in a timely and efficient manner. Can you explain the GAO's finding and why you believe including money for the capital fund as part of any infrastructure package will be wise and efficient use of the taxpayers' resources?
Yes, thank you for the question. So as you say very well, the public housing capital needs backlog has reached well over $50 billion. That's a direct result of decades of federal disinvestment in capital repair dollars by Congress. So between 2010 and 2016 alone, Congress cut funding for public housing capital repairs in half, and that was on top of prior decades of disinvestment as well. So today, the public housing capital needs are severe, and an investment in repairing public housing is badly needed. PHAs can spend money when they have it available to them, and they spend it efficiently and effectively. As you said, the last time we had an infusion of funding for public housing capital repairs was under ARA, and the GAO studied how PHAs were able to use those funds and found that the vast majority of them used them within the time limits that were set. NYCHA, in particular, does well with spending its capital expenditures. The last 4 capital expenditures it received, it spent well in advance of deadlines required by HUD.
Thank you. Ms. Yentel, a recent study produced by the Council of Large Public Housing Authorities showed that for 6 PHAs around the country, $4.5 billion in direct capital spending between FY 2013 and FY 2017 generated an estimated $7.6 billion in economic activity and supported 7,600 full-time jobs. Moreover, the $4 billion in capital funding provided by the American Recovery Act generated over $12.5 billion in economic activity. Can you explain how investing in public housing creates jobs and acts as an economic generator by leveraging public and private sector resources?
Yes, there are multiple studies that share statistics, as you just did, that show that if we were to spend $25 billion in repairing public housing, it would generate close to $80 billion in new money in local economies. And I think it's important, too, to note that funding for public housing repairs has an added benefit of providing not just jobs, but jobs for residents of public housing and other low-income residents in the community through the Section 8 program that requires that when communities receive funds from HUD, they give first preference for those jobs to public housing residents.
I yield back.